Hello, my name is Marc Sommerfeld. Welcome to my shop. Today we're going to show you how to build a glass panel door like this one right here. Also, we're going to show you how to make a glass panel door that has a divided light to it like this one, 4 divisions. You can see in the back we have 4 different pieces of glass. Also, we're going to show you how to get rid of these divisions here on the back where we have 1 piece of glass, but it still looks divided on the front. And lastly, we're going to show you how we make our glass panel door with an arched top to it. And doing all this, we're going to be using our glass panel set here. So let's get started. In building our glass panel door now, the first thing we want to do is determine how big to make the pieces. We always make our stiles here, our 2 stiles, 2 7/16 inches wide, and our top rail and bottom rail 2 7/16 inches wide. The reason we do that is because our router bit set here cuts a 7/16 inch engagement. Let me show you what I mean by that. You can see when I cut my profile and my cope, when the 2 go together there, I have a 7/16 engagement, right? And what we're doing, if this piece here is 2 7/16, we're losing 7/16 of an inch. Okay, so if we got 2 7/16, 2 7/16, we lose 7/16 and 7/16. That leaves me with 2 inches here and 2 inches here. Well, that 2 and 2 is 4 inches. That's my magic number. So if I'm making a door, let's say that is 12 inches wide, all I have to do is subtract 4, and I immediately know that this rail is going to be 8 inches. Okay? And as far as up and down goes, if my door is going to be 18 inches long, I simply make that piece 18 inches. So now you know how to arrive at the dimensions of your door. Okay, the first cut we're going to make, like I said, is the 2 cope cuts on the ends of the rails. To do that, we're going to use the cope cutter in our set here. We're going to sit that in our router, snug it up, and we'll be ready to go. Now, the first thing that you have to do is you have to get that bit set to the correct height. Okay? Well, the piece of wood we're using here is 13/16 of an inch thick. Okay? We have a neat little jig right here. It's called an easy set. What you can do is you can dial this into any thickness of wood. Right here, you start at the star. We have instructions that come with this that show you how to operate it, but we'll come into 13/16. We're going to dial this to 13/16, which is right there. You can see it. Okay? Once we have it dialed to the right thickness of wood, what we do is find the profile here. There's 8 different profiles. We find the profile for the glass panel, which is right here. We set that over there, and you can see my bit is a little bit too low. So I'm going to unlock my router and bring that bit up until it fits in there. It conforms right to the shape of that easy set. I'm right perfectly set to the right height. So I'll lock my bit in, and I'm ready to go. This little easy set jig saves me a lot of time in setting the bits correctly. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set our fence so our fence flush with our bearing. We take a straight edge on the front of our bearing, pivot my fence so we're flush with that bearing. We're ready to start cutting right there. Okay, move it in just a hair more. We're ready to cut. Now, whenever we do any cutting on any of my sets, we always put the good side down. Okay, here's our two rails. We're going to put the good side down. When we run these through, what we're going to do, So we're going to use a push block. We don't use the old-fashioned miter gauge. We just got a push block here. It's a square piece of wood, and I just screwed a push block to it. What that push block does, it keeps my board square to the fence, and it also prevents any chip out at the back of the cut. I'll show you after we make the cut how it works. So we'll turn our router on here and make our 2 cope cuts. You can see right there's no chip out at the back of my cut because we're following right behind with that backer. We've made the 2 cope cuts on the ends of our rails. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to change bits, and the next bit is designed to go with the grain. So our 2 styles can join in now. So we're going to change bits and cut with the grain. Now, here's the nice thing about changing bits with our sets. All of our sets are perfectly matched height-wise. What I mean by that, when I take this bit out now, and I take the next bit in, I don't have to worry about setting the height again because our 2 bits are perfectly matched height-wise, just like that. So all you have to do is drop it in and you're ready to go. Now, you're not supposed to do that because when you tighten a bit up, that bit has to suck down into the collet to get tight. Well, in the bottom of the collet, we put a little rubber grommet. You can read about it in our catalog. The little rubber grommet in there. And now, when I go to tighten up that bit will compress against that rubber grommet exactly the same every time, and we're in business. So that's how unique our bits are on our sets. We're set up. We're ready to make our second cut with no adjustment on the height of the bit. The only thing we have to do is bring our fence into here, and we have to bring our fence flush with that bearing again, right there, to make our finished cut. But you'll see when we make our pattern cut here, you can see right here, we're making a very, very deep cut. It's a big rabbit cut. So we hate to make that cut in one pass. So what I'm going to do is move my fence ahead just a little bit, and we're going to take this cut in 2 passes. It makes it a little bit easier, and it's just a little bit safer to make that cut that way. So again, we're going to use our push block, put the good side down, and make our pattern cuts, the first one. Okay, you can see we've got the first cut made. Now, what we're going to do is finish the cut by moving the fence back, making it in 2 passes. Now, we're going to take the bearing flush with the fence, lock it down right there, move the fence ahead. Lock it down. We're ready to make our second pass now. Same thing, good side down. Now we'll be making contact with that bearing in the middle. Okay, we've got our 2 styles done. All we do is take our cope cuts, fit into our pattern cut right like that on both sides. And that's how easy it is to make a glass panel door, just right like that. All you do is line these up, your stiles and rails up on the ends. And basically your glass panel door is built that quick. Okay, here's our door, and I have a piece of plastic here to simulate some glass here to show you. Our glass is going to fit into our rabbet joint there. Now, a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll cut a wood strip along all four edges, and they'll nail. I won't nail that in, but when I nail that, sometimes I split the wood, I break the glass, so I don't like doing that. Some guys will take these little plastic things and turn them. I don't like doing that either. So the way we're going to do it is we have this panel retainer that we have. Okay, it comes in a 25-foot roll. And once that glass is in there, you can see we cut a little groove right in there into our stiles and on our rails. What that does, it allows this panel retainer, and you can cut this with a scissors, miter the corners and everything, but this panel retainer has a small little leg on it. And what's going to happen is that's going to snap into that groove real slick, just like that. See? Goes right down there. You can go all the way around your door, miter your corners, and it's a very neat way of holding your glass in. Holds it in really tight. If your glass ever breaks, you can replace it very easily. So, let me show you how we're going to cut that groove into our stiles and rails next. Okay, to do that, we're going to use this little sliding cutter in our set. That's the third bit in our set. Okay, and again, we change bits here. We'll take our bent wrench, comes down in here. My left hand comes in, pushes it on my spindle lock. Okay, all I have to do is just nudge that bit. That bit comes out, and again, all three bits are the same height. We just drop that bit on our rubber grommet, and we're good to go. That quick and easy. Put my insert ring back in, and we're ready to cut. Now, there's a bearing on the bottom of this cutter, okay? And that's where I have to line up my fence again. There's a bearing on the bottom. You can see it right there. You can feel it. My fence pivots to where that bearing's at, and I'm ready to go. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to put our good side down always, and we're going to cut that groove. Here's my rabbet joint right here. We're going to cut the groove into the rabbet right like that. Okay, you can see that little groove we cut right there, slot. Now we got to do the same thing on our stiles, but we can't start cutting right away. Otherwise, when we put the two together on the outside of the door, you're going to see that little slot right there, see? So what we have to do when we do our stiles is start a little bit shy and end a little bit shy. So we'll make those cuts here next. Okay, we've got our door basically done. Here's our two stiles, and here's our two rails, top rail and the bottom rail right here. All we have to do now is take and apply a little bit of glue on our stile and our rail. Take this and sit in our clamps. We're going to do that next. Take and stick it in our clamps, clamp it up, and our glass panel door is done. We've got our square glass panel door done. Now what we want to do is make an arched glass panel door. To do that, all we're going to do is substitute this square rail like here with an arch like this. To do that, what we need to do is keep the same length, of course, but we're going to make the width of that piece 4.5 inches. And after we've got that piece cut out now, what we need to do next is change bits. We're going to put the cope cutter in that we had to begin with and start again by making the cope cuts. Okay, we've got our cope cutter back in there. That's the original cope one we started with at the beginning. And we're going to make our two cope cuts on the ends of that top arched rail. Again, using our push block. Okay, there's our 2 cope cuts. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we have to put that arch into that top rail. Okay, to do that, we've got a set of templates. And our templates come in different sizes, starting with 9.5, 10.5. They go up in 1-inch increments all the way up to a 22-inch door. So you can make any size door you want. Well, the door I'm making today is going to be about a 13-inch wide door. So we're going to use a template that says 13.5, 14.5. All of our templates have a center point. All I have to do is line that center point up with the center line I found in that top rail already right there. Okay? I'm going to line those 2 center lines up right like that, and then I'm going to nail that template on the back side. Now, the next thing we have to do is we have to take this top rail to our bandsaw, and I'm going to bandsaw this out to within about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch so we can flush trim it and get it exact. You can see we have that rail cut out to within about 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch or so of our template. Now the next thing we're going to do is stick a simple flush trim bit into our router, and we're going to flush trim that rail to the same shape as our template. But before we do that, I want to make some jigs with this router bit, this cope cutter, while I still have it in there for our next operation. And all I'm going to do is cut a cope cut along this piece right here, and I'm going to cut some cope cuts on these scrap woods, and you'll see later where they're going to be put to use. But I just want to do it while I have that cope cutter in there right now. Okay, you can see we got cope cuts cut all on these 4 edges of these 2 little blocks here and 1 on here. I'll show you later when we do our divided light where these are going to come in handy. All right, right now what I need to do is change this bit. I'm going to insert my flush trimming bit in, and then I'll show you how we flush trim that top rail. Okay, we're ready to take that cope cutting bit out of there now. And we're going to insert that flush trimmer in there. Snug it up, and we're ready to go. Okay. Put my insert on here. Now, what I have to do, this bit is not part of the set, so you can see it's not matched. What I have to do is I have to lower that bit so the bearing is riding on my template. So I'm going to